What's up, Faction? It's FitBiz Thursday. This week I want to talk to you about a program that we've put in place here at Cressy Sports Performance. We call it our Scholarship Athlete Program, and it's a solution we came up with to accommodate athletes who couldn't afford our services but were absolutely deserving. So I'll start by telling you a couple of reasons why it's good to put a program of this nature in place, and then I'll talk to you about how exactly we went about creating our systems, identifying how athletes can come into the program and become candidates for it, and what our rules are for participation as you're in the midst of the process. Let's get started. Let's start with a look at the three best reasons why you can introduce a program like this. The first, as I've mentioned, it's an opportunity to accommodate athletes who can't necessarily afford your services. In a lot of cases, we are simply a price leader, or we're just too expensive for kids who maybe come from a big family or just don't have the means to swing several $100s a month to be in our community and environment, but it doesn't mean they're not deserving. So this is a solution we put in place to take care of it. Second reason is because we can teach kids, these young athletes, the value of hard work, value of a dollar, understand that they can invest their time and energy into our space and our team and themselves, and out of it extract free training. The third reason is because these guys really do improve culture around the gym. They become a part of the team. They become a part of the family, the fabric of CSP in our case, and they might be tidying up around the space, getting equipment where it needs to be, taking trash out, but they're part of the day-to-day operations, and we treat them as if they're a staff member. And it's a wonderful thing because they take a lot of pride in the experience. So let's talk about how exactly you go about creating a scholarship athlete program, beginning with you identifying the what of what your program looks like on paper. The next step in the process is figuring out exactly what your program looks like on paper. So you need to ask yourself if this is just straight up free training, or if this is free training in exchange for some work around the gym, like I've mentioned at our business. It can go either way, but expectations need to be very clearly outlined as you bring participants on. Other questions to ask yourself: if they're doing work around the gym, what's it look like? Is it answering phones? Is it getting the mail? Is it taking the trash out? Is it wiping down equipment? It can be anything. But you need to be clear about what the role entails before somebody signs on to participate. How many days a week are you going to require? How much training is asked of a client? I would say that there should actually be a minimum. In our case, I'm not really looking to scholarship an athlete who's only going to show up once a week, not because they can't bring value on that one day, but I don't know that they'll get as much value out of training with us. And I really count on the people who are getting this discounted or subsidized training to be opinion leaders for us out in the community. And I want to ensure that we kind of protect that investment, make sure that they're here as often as possible and getting a ton out of the experience. So for us, if you want to be a scholarship athlete, you got to participate at least 3 days a week. Other questions: how many people are you willing to take on at a time? Program participant number is pretty important. I'd say start with one. That's a good place. And I'd cap it at no more than 3. As you start to accumulate bodies in this sense, it's tying up a lot of free training or discounted training, but it's also a lot of schedules to manage and expectations to communicate to multiple people at all times. So start small and keep it pretty small. Last, I want to touch on a way that you can do this without mandating that people contribute around your gym. Maybe you've got a full internship program and you don't need any more bodies to take out trash or tidy up the gym at the end of the day. Maybe you just want to subsidize some training for some people. And I think it's important, as I mentioned before, to teach these guys the value of hard work. So a way that you could do this is you can mandate that scholarship program participants have to maintain employment outside of your facility. Maybe it's a minimum number of hours. They need to bring a pay stub in and show you that they have a job elsewhere. They're responsible young men or women. Maybe it is that in exchange for a certain number of hours of community service in the community, if they can document that, you say, hey, you've earned yourself some free training. It's a great way to teach lessons and responsibility. But scholarshiping your athletes needs to be more than just saying, hey, you get to train for free. They need to feel like there's some sort of commitment to the process and that they're doing something to improve themselves or the people around them if they're going to be getting something for free or heavily subsidized nature. Next, let's talk about establishing your rules and expectations as it relates to onboarding someone and getting their parents involved in the process. The most important thing you can do if you introduce a scholarship athlete at your gym is make it feel like serious business. It needs to be structured. There need to be very clearly outlined expectations. People need to feel like participation is a privilege. So this starts by creating an application process. And I would imagine that most of you guys have athletes who would love to get discounts of this nature, be contributors around the gym, and grab that scholarship athlete spot. So you need to think strategically about how you're going to decide who gets this role. For us, we've asked for an application in the process of taking kids on in the past, where we say to them, hey, we want you to create a resume, opportunity to teach them how to create their first resume. Obviously, there's not going to be a whole lot on there, but they need to understand the importance of that. Next, you ask them to write a small blurb about why they think they'd be a good contributor, a good fit for it, and you make them commit to this. And then the third step and most important there is bringing the parents in along with the kid. Make it mandatory that parents participate in this discussion. So essentially, you're interviewing a kid and their parents to see if they are candidates to participate in this role. If they understand that there are a lot of people who would love to get their hands on these slots, they're going to take it seriously. So once in front of you, that's where you roll out your expectation. So for this, you're outlining start date and end date for the program. It shouldn't be open-ended, shouldn't last forever. You should tell them that, in our case, I think seasonally works very nicely. So maybe along the lines of the academic calendar, you could have a first semester or first quarter scholarship athlete. And it kind of depends on how often you want to deal with the logistics of interviewing, bringing people into the mix. But don't let them feel like it's something that they own in perpetuity, because that gets dangerous and they begin to coast. Next, maybe establish term limits for people. You might be able to say that a scholarship athlete can't serve for more than consecutive seasons. That's entirely up to you. I find that if you get past a full calendar year of scholarship athlete status with us, it's probably a good idea to take a break, because people get a little too comfortable. Stop appreciating what we're doing. And then once you've established your expectations for when they're going to start, when they're going to finish, how many hours a week they're going to work, you need to have them sign an agreement of some nature saying that they're on board and that they understand the rules. One of the important rules being that there should be some sort of exit clause for you if an athlete fails to hold up their end of the bargain. So maybe it's 2 or 3 strikes and you're out as far as attendance or tardiness, or even failure to miss training sessions. We've had people who have taken this role, showed up for their work all the time and said, I got to duck out early, I've got family stuff, or I've got too much homework, I can't get the training in. And as much as I admire them showing up for work and not extracting all the value, I respect the fact that they're trying to hold up their end of the bargain. A huge part of that bargain is getting the training in and continuing to take advantage of that end of the deal. So it's non-negotiable. You show up to work and you train. And if you break the rule enough times, you're going to forfeit your position. Make sure it's clear to the kid, clear to the parents, it's on paper, and then you don't have any issues down the road as they start starting to break rules. So a quick recap of what we covered today. Scholarship athlete program, 3 great reasons for doing so. 1, you're going to accommodate the deserving, kids who need to train with you but can't afford it. 2, you're going to teach them some responsibility about managing a job, hard day's work, whatever you want to call it. And 3, you're going to improve the culture in the gym because you're adding a new personality to the staff, even if it's in a temporary format. Next, we moved on to kind of the 2 stages of program design or creation. The first being the brainstorming phase. So what does your program look like on paper, and what are the rules for participation? The second stage in this program creation process was the candidate selection phase. So you're going to make them apply. You're going to make them interview. You're going to get the parents involved in the process. And then you're going to make them commit to something, sign on the dotted line and say, I'm in, I understand how to participate in this, and you move forward and everybody learns from the process. That's it for this week. I hope you guys all have an awesome Memorial Day weekend. Look forward to talking to you all next Thursday.